And let's get things rolling here. So, welcome to Train and Trade. We're live every day at 11 a.m. Eastern, every trading day, I should say. And really look forward to seeing you guys come in here. Remember, you can follow us at dtitrader.com/telegram for an up-to-date schedule. And of course, you can join us live over on YouTube. Make sure you click that bell to subscribe so you can get a notice of when we're going online. If you like what you're seeing over there, go ahead. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up. All right. So, risk disclaimer. There is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone will be responsible for the decisions you make. Make them accordingly. Remember that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And let's go ahead and get into this. Crude oil opened this morning at 81.27. They traded up to a high of 82.99, a low of 80.71, currently sitting at 81.82. Our FTD levels, we bolted up the high there. The FTD high 78.20 quarter. S&P futures opened last night above 78.20 quarter. And then, very importantly, they opened up RB3 also above 78.20 quarter. They have moved back down a little bit, 78.0950 just now. But the SPY also opened above 78 or above the FTD high. I got to double check what that number was, but we'll get that in a moment. Main thing is the opens have been above the FTD high. So that's a big accomplishment today. We'll see how the market plays that through. News, Iran. You do have to worry about the geopolitical risk that's out there. It has been out there for a while. Now, the open and RB3 open both above the FTD high in the ES futures and the NASDAQ futures. So that is kind of a big point. We're going to have Tom joining us in just a second to express his opinion. And while we wait for that, while we wait for him to come online, show his face, and get that sound up and working. Well, it looks like he's here now. Tom, pretty big accomplishment for both the S&P and the NASDAQ opening above and having the RB3 open above the FTD high. So that's a big blue mark, or blue check mark, green check mark, if you will. And looks like the market is kind of just running the paces. Like, we did it. We'll see what happens next. Is this a market that might be waiting for next week?
Oh, yeah, anything's possible. I think if with the tight range that you've got, I mean, you got to put that in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a range on the E-mini of what is it, 78.31 to 78.09.
Yeah,
What's that?
about 22 points, 23
22
points.
points. Chuck, what does it tell you if you got a 22-point range? What is the likelihood of the market doing something? I mean, what I'm saying is, what is the likelihood of of it going down or up when you got that tight of a range?
I think it's kind of slim. My personal opinion, Tom, is you got a market that made a big accomplishment this week, and you might see it kind of resting on its laurels a little bit. We don't see that much activity. That small range tells me that, and I think that it's. I don't want to say it's summer doldrums because there's still a good trading day ahead of us, but it's kind of quiet, and I if it doesn't break significant levels, I think you expect it to remain quiet until it starts getting loud.
Yeah, I was real excited when I watched the pre-market because the pre-market was very bullish, and I mean, we're actually bullish up to the point we went to 31.32 after RB3. Then it broke RB3, started correcting to the downside, 78.08, but it's not a sell-off per se. I think it's more of a profit-taking thing for the week that we're going through right now. But what happens, here's something that where knowing the different zones help you, I think, put things in perspective. what happens sometime between 11:30 and 12? We got something we call Genesis, right? And we have found in our studies and watching it that 4 out of 5 times the market will make a high or low during that period of time. So if you look at the roadmap, in my opinion, you got the market down here. So it looks like it's not down enough to make it to the sell zone, but it's just down. And if you look at where everything is, it looks to me like the selling's going to exhaust itself based on what I'm looking at. And you're probably going to get some retracement back up, especially if you had any news to hit the market, right? And you never know about a Friday where you're going to get news or not. But traditionally on Fridays, if a market's this close to the record, you know, after RB4, you usually get a push to make a record for it to close. Something will come out or somebody will say something. I mean, you could have another record day. You've had, I think, 3 this week, right? Oh,
Yeah,
Jim just
and
told us to answer.
oh, yeah, we got geopolitical coming up at 3 p.m. Is that 3 p.m. Eastern, Jim? Now, one thing, Tom, you talk about that small range. You know, when you look at this chart, let me just blow this up to the way it would normally look. It expands to the range. You see this. This looks like a big down move. One of the reasons we pay attention to the buy zones and the sell zones is you can see when the market is very much in the middle area. But the Russell futures really came out of the gate strong this morning. Small caps doing great. And, you know, I liken it to, and I made this analogy earlier. Uh, Once that runner runs the marathon, it's a huge accomplishment. Sometimes you got to let them rest before you ask them to run the next race.
And I just want to tell people there's not a session that goes by because he follows this tick by tick, the Russell. And I'm always enlightened when he brings up the Russell because I hardly ever look at it. Okay, I'm an S&P guy, and it's pretty interesting that Chuck always talks about that Russell and keeps us informed. That's the nice thing about having him on the team because he's watching something I never even look at, and and uh, and I also know though when the Russell was moving, you had the third wave. Like if you're going up a hill, you got you got the war fighters going first, you got the
Yep.
backup people coming second, and then you got the last people, the generals going up the hill to take credit. So the Russells, the way I see it, is not the real war fighters, but the guys that are saying, "Hey, yeah, we're going higher, and here it comes," and they're doing it today, right? So that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think of it as the support staff coming up behind all the fighters, right? So
Okay.
you can't move an army without the what do we call him? What's that sergeant that does the logistics, brings in all the food? I'm, I'm lacking the military terms, but
Commissary officer.
yeah, basically. So anyway, past 5 trade sessions that we've gone through. Quartermaster, thank you, Jim. Jim's got all the right answers this morning. So yeah, the quartermaster is coming up to join everything. So last week, Tom, on Friday, talked about FTD long stocks. This week we looked at the basics of the Cadillac. On Tuesday, bracket orders. Bracket orders might be kind of important. We were looking at them in TOS, but you know, having brackets on the market, that's basically looking at the high and low and seeing if it'll get past them, right? So that's kind of an important thing to do. Wednesday, we talked about 5 questions about hedging. Tuesday, the gold air pocket, another little hedging thing. So, you know, we're always prepared for what happens in the market next. But the FTD stocks, this is kind of the big one, and it's going to look maybe a little bit different than it should. I wish we could have gotten this screenshot right at the open of RB3 because at that time, E-mini S&P was there, NASDAQ was there. I don't think the Dow was quite there. The Dow was a little bit lacking. And Russell's not on this sheet, Tom, but their FTD high was 3058.3. And their big move, what inspired that big move, in my opinion, was the Russell futures actually pushed past that FTD high. So you had a run there from 58.3 all the way up to the high today at 73.7. So that's why I was watching the Russell today. It was the one that had something to prove. I think the S&P and the Nasdaq had already proven it. Nasdaq is still proving it, but the S&P taking a little bit of a break. We'll see what they look like for the Genesis bar. Now, come down this list, we do see a lot of green flags here, and I want to let's see, change this back to about 75% so we can see if there's any on that low side. But notice we're not getting anything on the low. This is all long, even as we go down to the ETFs and the mining stocks. Now we get into our main stocks here, and here's a few. Amazon and AppLovin pulling back a bit. We do have a lot of long. AVAV, one that I know you've been having a lot of fun with recently, Tom. Let's see, we've got Cerebus, needs to do a little bit of work, but CoreWeave looking strong. Keep coming down. Google kind of failing a little bit. So that's both Amazon and Google kind of backing up, taking a little bit of a day off. But here is a few: Intel, J&J, and JP Morgan, all giving you that long position. Any thoughts on Intel, Tom?
Hold on a second.
All right. While he's taking care of that, we'll scroll down to the bottom of the list. You can see that.
All right, I'm back. What do you want to know?
Thoughts on Intel?
Yeah, I like the way Intel looks. It had a high this week. It's just got it's coming to these levels and sitting very tight range instead of having the volatility it had before. Uh, it was rocking and rolling. I thought we were about ready to have a huge month in Intel, and they announced they're doing the secondary offering, which 15 billion they're raising, I guess, and then the market's got past that. It's trying to put, like I always say, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. They're trying to put it back together. I would say if it got above 107.55, it's back in play. So I do have some thoughts on Intel.
There you go. I figured you did. Yeah, I saw that number in the that was in the Magic 5 this morning, wasn't it?
I
That
believe it was.
Intel number. Yeah, 107.55. So that came out earlier this morning, and Intel went up to 106.87. So they're flirting with the idea of making that second move, but pausing a little bit right now with the rest of the market. And you keep coming down. There's a lot of green. So a lot of good stocks to talk about. Not a lot of red. We saw the red here. It was Google, it was Amazon, and it was AppLovin and the VIX. And the VIX, we want to see that red, but out of this entire list, and this is a curated list, guys. They keep this up and update this, and Tom and Jonathan have just given us just a great list of stocks. When you look at the market's bullish, how many of the stocks are bullish? Most of them. So yeah, that's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I want to post three levels in the SPY now that the SPY has had a day where it opened above the 3-day high. We got the 3-day lows way down there, but some more immediate levels in the SPY. We have yesterday's low at 774.11. On that breakout bar yesterday, 774.11 is yesterday's low. The week opens at 772.60, and the weekly low came on Tuesday this week down at 769.20. So those are three numbers on the SPY that we need to hold here on that market. But Tom, today you wanted to talk about the most effective way to play an up or a down market. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I think, one of the problem we have, and I have it too, so it's a common problem as a trader, is at the time to get into the market. And I discovered this during the class, how long it takes people to put orders in. And I said, goodness gracious, we need to practice that a little bit. And during the class, we did that. We practiced it on both on Monday and Tuesday and timed it. And back in the DTI days, we used to bring people up to the front of the audience and we'd say, should you be long, short, or out? And then put an order in, time it. And we had a horn in there. It was crazy. You didn't want that horn to go off. It was it would shake your bones when it went off, but we'd put 2 minutes on it. And I figured if somebody can think about a trade, get it into the market in 2 minutes, that's a good time frame. But I found out in the class people were taking 3 and 4 minutes to put orders in, and I'm thinking that's not good, okay? And you got to practice it a little bit, get your skill level. So you got to think, what are the steps to do that? But trading the spot is a real quick way to get into the market. And it's very simple. Generally speaking, if you do a 10 wide SPY spread, okay, you got a lot of flexibility in a 10 wide SPY spread if you go 30 days or longer, because you're going to pay, depending on how high you go or what your duration is, anywhere from, you can do it for, I guess, $1 to $2 to $3. The higher the price, the more responsive it will be to the current market. And so, the key is you don't want to hit $5, which is, it's got 10 wides, right? You don't want to pay more than $5. And I do have a Roger Maris trade I do, which is 9 wide, and you don't want to go over 4.5. So it tells you how to get into the market. So let's just say if I assume, even in this down day, that I think the market's going to be higher next week, right? And this goes into the success of everything that we do. Last trade I do every week is my weekend side hustle trade, but it's based on the same theory. We're in an uptrend. Okay, do I think Michael Burry's right? The market's going to crash? No. Do I think we're going to go higher? Yes. And I gave you this stat. I don't know if you remember me giving it to you, that every 2 days this year, 150 trading days, we've made 75 records. So it doesn't happen back to back or all that. But if you do all the stats and look at it, so every other day, you're making a new high. Now, it doesn't work out. I wish it did work out that way, but sometimes you go through these periods that you go for a little drought. But right now, we're in the stage that we just come off this week, I think, 3 days of record highs. And now you do it, okay? And so that makes it pretty nice. You can do it that way. But I like the SPY because it's usually about 10 delta, right? So 10 of them gives me 100 positive delta, plays into my total profile of if I need to get hedged up, I'll use negative delta from a 10 wide put spread. But the SPY is something that everybody here, they say, why did you choose the SPY, I guess, is the question, right? Well, if you hadn't figured it out, I followed the S&P futures pretty close. Have y'all figured that out? Did I give you a pivot number on the S&P futures? I talk about support and resistance based off the S&P futures. I pretty well am like a broken record because the futures first move is the S&P futures. Gives us an edge. So I look at the futures and say, okay, what is it telling me, right? And that's where you get into reference bars and that stuff. So having the money maker, and I posted every day in TNT, and I told everybody my upside target was 78.45 today. Well, my pivot number was 78.20. So how did I use that information? Well, this morning at 5 o'clock, I got long. And I made 10 points on the SPY, or on the E-mini, before the market even, opened on the cash. And then now I've got a spread on, okay? A spread, right? And the spread's is on the SPY. If I look at the SPY, I paid about 4.25 for it. With this market down from where I got in, I'm down maybe 10 cents. Everybody understand how the SPY is a great thing to use? Now, somebody said, why don't I use the SPX or XSP? Well, XSP would work if you wanted to use it, but I wouldn't use SPX because SPX is a big contract and it doesn't trade around the clock, even though they've started trading options on it. But the cash doesn't move around the clock. You can relate it to what the futures are doing. But the bottom line is, I just like the SPY. It's a direct correlation with the E-mini. I hope I answered the question, Jonathan. Did you have more you want to add?
Well, I got some numbers today we can work off of. Your pivot today is 78.20.
Mm-hmm.
78.20. And question is, how do you use that daily pivot? We get that question all the time, all the time. And I've got a couple slides here to talk about it, and you can give your own words on it, Tom. But above the pivot in this bullish market, we're looking to buy stocks, buy stock options, futures, if you want to trade futures and know how to trade futures, or the SPY, SPX, or XSP options directly. And that all depends on how much leverage you want to give the trade. The SPY and the XS, they're all very liquid, but the SPY and the XSP obviously are going to be entry level for everybody in terms of size account. The SPX, you're going to need a much bigger size account really for how much that moves. But above pivot, you're thinking long. You're thinking long, okay? Now below pivot, you got to remember the bigger picture first. Bigger picture, we're bullish, right? We just made a new all-time high yesterday. So in a below pivot day, unless you're like a real quick trader and a day trader, scalper, and comfortable doing that, you need to keep your hand off the ballast because you want to trade with the bigger picture in mind. And so, yeah, that's the two slides there. How to use the daily pivot. We get that question all the time. It's good to, we really probably should review it every single day, honestly. But for most of you, you know how to use the
Yeah,
pivot.
yeah. I put it in TNT. I always remind people what it is. And my pivot number, if I was judging myself, this is based on talking to students that really know how to use it, they they live or die by that pivot number because it basically says it's time to go to work or time to drink some coffee or water or whatever you're drinking. Because if it's below the pivot in a bullish market, I'm not looking to go short. I'm looking for the market to regroup. And times I look to regroup. Let's just talk about it. Let me define it for you. I taught in Futures First an RB1 trade. Well, it paid last night. The RB1 trade paid. They got that trade. I had Rhonda told me that she takes that trade any night it sets up, and she's 100% successful with it because it's that good. That's RB1. That's in the night. She's from Canada and all that. So Rhonda's got it down, the RB1 trade. Well, I will do the RB1 trade usually about 9 o'clock, 9:05 when it sets up, and I use a bracket order. I set about a 10 um, a target of 10 and a loss of 10 if it's set up right, and I just go do everything else. And I guess made that trade about 10 times in a row using E-mini. That's about 5 grand I've added just from that in the last 20 days. And so that's the first trade I do. I don't trade a lot past that futures trade at night. And then I wake up early. And I want to ask the question. How many people here are in TNT? Let me ask this question. I want to get some numbers. How many people are here at TNT? Okay, now I'm going to ask the question I'm curious about. How many people get up like I do at 5 o'clock Eastern time? Say yes if you get up, or no if you don't get up at 5. Okay, now let's ask the question another way. How many people get up at 6 o'clock? How many people get up at 6? I'm using Eastern time. Okay, more are getting up at 6. How many people get up at 7? Okay, and how many people get up by 8? Okay. Uh, do me a favor. I'm gonna ask y'all to do me. It's going by pretty fast. Will everybody send Jonathan an email with the time you get up? What I'm doing is I put a lot of information. Maybe I'm working too hard, but I want to make sure people are using it because goodness gracious, very lucrative at 5 o'clock in the morning. And but I put a lot of information. So I get up. That's probably not going to change, but if you get up at those later times, you ought to go back to the start of when I start posting in TNT, and I'd say it's pretty good because all you got to do is go find the overview slide, which is my roadmap custom page. I start out with that every day. That's the first thing I do. Then I do the Magic 5. It's good information. Even if you get up later, you might not be able to make the trades if you get up later. Sometimes I'm in and out of those trades by the time if you wake up at 8, okay? Uh, but it's put right in TNT. First thing I do every day. And that pivot number, I'm basically telling you there what I expect. And it's very good information at that time in the morning. And I'd say from 5 to 6 it's posted, okay? And anyway, I do that, okay? Well, thank you, William. But Jonathan doesn't get up at 5. Jonathan doesn't get up at 6. Jonathan, what time do you typically get up in the morning?
About 7:15 Central Time. Central Time.
Yeah, which is 8:15 my time. Chuck, what time do you get up in the morning?
Tom, I typically get up at 5:55 Central Time.
Which is 5:55, about 6:55, about 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is early. Okay, I get it. But I have my whole game plan in place in that first hour in the morning. And my game plan today was I'm getting into a SPY trade today. And if it works out and I get paid today, that's great. But if it doesn't, I'm okay because I've got enough time on the trade. And but any day I have this kind of setup, I'm taking it.
We got some more numbers to go through here. We have, all right, so let's say we get back above 78.20. Tom's first target today is 78.45, and second target will be 78.75. Now, both of those would send us to new all-time highs again if it occurred today.
Yeah, and you know, so far you've seen profit taken. We're coming into Genesis right now. It's 11. What time? I can't. Let me look. What time is it? It's 11:33. We just started Genesis, but we've been profit taking since early. Let's go look at a roadmap real quick.
Okay, let's see.
George, are you in TNT? We can give you a link if you want to join.
DTItrader.com/TNT. I'll post it in the chat here.
Okay, let's analyze the market. Okay, go back to RB1.
Just getting that link posted real quick, Tom.
Yeah. There's the link, George.
Okay, RV1 is this bar right here. It has a 1 over it.
That's one. You sure?
I'm positive. Yep.
Huh. Okay. Anyway, if you look at that, that's above RB4, Z bar and everything. And so it went sideways most of the night, but the trade worked at 9 o'clock for the 10 points, went up 29 or something like that. Anyway, okay. And I didn't get out to that trade too early in the morning when it hit 30, but okay, come on forward. So let's go over tonight. Very solid night, sideways all night. Didn't go down, didn't go up, or it stayed positive. Okay. My pivot number 78.20 was defended all night long. And then you got to RB2. Where's RB2?
RB2 is Basically the same level there. Actually, we traded a very tight range overnight. It's that candle with the two above it.
Okay, then go to RB3.
Now, RB3 is right here. This much larger candle, relatively.
That's not showing as good as mine does. I don't know why. Mine was a lot more defined when I looked at it. I don't know if it's the way you got the bars. Spread your bars, make your bars a little longer or something.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. See, it was bullish coming into the day. I decided I'm gonna put a SPY trade on. I did, and it went higher, got up about 40 cents on the trade. I didn't take it. And then it started selling off. We broke the thing. We've been breaking down into Genesis. If you look back over there at the white bar, what white bar is that over there? Genesis from yesterday?
That's Genesis from yesterday. Yeah, 77.97 is the low of that bar.
And what's the high of that bar?
78.08.
All right, we're 78.06. So we're really testing 24 hours later yesterday's Genesis bar. And yesterday's Genesis bar was more pronounced as we went higher. I did that SPY trade then too. But anyway, just saying, I like that SPY trade. Anyway, but if you look at it, if you get higher. Now, I take a unique way to read charts, okay? Uh, if you look at the current bar prior to Genesis, what's the high of that bar, Jonathan?
Let's see. Prior to today's Genesis bar, the one that happened 30 minutes ago, the high is 78.14. Call it 78.14.
Yeah, so a safe bet would be, now I've got a spread. Everybody got this? I got a spread on Genesis, correct? Well, a safe bet would be to put another one on if it got above the 15. It's not good enough to leg it, but it's good enough to put another SPY spread on, okay? Now, if it got above 15. Now, if it got above 20, I might leg it. But the point is, the market's set up, if you think about it, 4 out of 5 days making a low. Now, what happens if it doesn't make a low and we go down? That's okay too, because if I look at the week, I will I'll be on solid ground because the week open for the SPY, I thought you said it was like what was the week open for SPY? Can you look over there and tell me?
Yeah, for the SPY, the SPY, I said in the chat earlier, so let me just scroll up
Yeah.
and taking a while to find it here in the chat. It must have been a good while ago. Week open 772.60 on the SPY, and the number for the S&P futures is 7776, 7,776. So we're about 30 points above the week open on the S&P futures.
Yeah, so pretty much pretty good. George, put your email and phone in there, and I'll have somebody call you. Okay? And write George's number down.
Will do.
Uh, but looking at the market looks fairly decent. Now let's put gold in there. I had a Grim Reaper attack me this week in gold, and this morning I legged out of it. And let's just look at the current level of gold, what we got going on.
We got gold up here at 44.45 near the highs for today.
Yeah, I've got two numbers there, 44.75, and I got 44.55 was the day's high. So I will probably just get out of gold by the end of the day because you got options there. But as I said, even if I'm a little short of my goal, I'm in a better shape than I was by legging out. Number one, taking profit on the short side, I did, but I'll work it off. Work it off in some other ways. But anyway, I'd like to see it get up there and take out that 75 the second half of the day. That'd make life really, really fun, so to speak, for the leg to work. My all bets off number right now is what is it, 44.25 area? Okay. Anyway, that's gold. I'm out. It's in the history books after today. Yeah, what happened at 1:30 in the morning, I wasn't up and market sold off big time and killed my bullish play after making that trade for about 4 days. So they got a little bit of my money on that one, but I always charge interest for them taking my money, and I will in this case too. So that's just the way it is. One of the next 10,000. All right, so we're sitting here looking pretty good. I have seen no appreciable bounce in anything since the sell-off started, and we're at 78.01. And if I look at the current bar, Genesis is above the low. How low do we go on that bar prior to this bar?
Yeah, we went down to 44.36 here on gold futures.
Okay, yeah, okay, go to the SPY. Sorry, we switched over. Go look at the SPY.
For the SPY, we're at the lows of the cash market, down at 78.01, 7,800.
Yeah, so
This is the
we're
S&P
testing
futures.
that or probably go lower. Probably going to be the Genesis low that we're going to trade off of. And the high of Genesis is what?
So far, the high of Genesis today is 78.06, 78.07.
Yeah, so the reason I say that we'll slide to Genesis being the anchor bar, which is a more powerful anchor bar, and that'll be the range defining the next steps on Genesis. We got a live trading deal that we're doing at 12:30, right?
We do. Yep, we do.
I say let's
Let me go back to the slides here. I had some more slide education to
okay,
go
let you
through.
cover those and we'll play a tape. You know, today, Jonathan, is a weekend side hustle, the last trade I'll do. What are we playing today, given a chance to join us with?
Weekend side hustle.
There you go.
So as Tom just mentioned on the live market, support today is 77.95. That lines up well with yesterday's Genesis bar low. The bigger picture low is much further down. 75.75 is the bigger picture support. Now the question is, how can we relate these numbers to the SPY? So the first target, second target to the upside, and the support number to the downside. And a moneymaker feature inside your roadmap, or your roadmap holders, under tables is a feature called the moneymaker. And if you build it, you can right click on the feature and go to manage symbols and build it. What you have is you need to type in all caps and you put your benchmark market in there first. And we're using the S&P futures to relate it, of course, to the SPY, XSP, and SPX. There's a one-to-one direct correlation essentially on those. So at a 78.45 on the S&P futures, when I built this slide, this feature uses that 78.45, the target numbers on the futures. It uses those levels and calculates out where the SPY, XSP, and SPX should be trading at that time in theory, right? And
Your sound's messed up a little
a
bit,
little
John.
muddy in waters. Well, yeah, I mean the SPY. Remember, SPY is directly correlated to the S&P feature, so using that is literally as good as you can get in terms of this feature goes. All right, I just got a notification that my internet was unstable. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, he does. He's been having he's just having a few internet issues. So we hear you, Jonathan,
Try
now.
to get Starlink, Jonathan.
That's what I keep hearing. Starlink is the way to go.
I think
All
your
right,
internet.
so if the S&P can muster, what this slide is saying is if the S&P can muster up the strength to get back above Tom's pivot and make it to 78.45, the SPY, SPY, should get up to about 780. And that'll help you formulate your options trades up to that level, know where to take some profits on the SPY if you're trading the SPY instead of the S&P future. It's an alert at 78.45 on the futures to alert you then. Or you can use, if you have the roadmap, use this feature. It'll spit out very accurately for the SPY based on the S&P future there during the cash market hours. And then of course, if we throw the support numbers in there, we got 75.40, 775.40 as a level the SPY doesn't need to break if the S&P gets down to 77.95. It should be fairly accurate there, given the direct correlation. All right, this is the Moneymaker feature inside the Roadmap software. Any questions on it?
The only thing I'll say, if you're not in the weekend side hustle, you must not like money. Whether the market's going up or down, I have a formula I use for it. It's proven out time and time again. It's the last trade I'll do this week. And, you know, if you like money, you ought to be part of it. Who's part of the weekend side hustle? Nancy. Anybody not part of it? I'm not overstating it, am I? It's that good. And I got one last question. I'll turn it over to Jonathan before we play the recording. Okay. Anybody have Starlink?